Hey YouTube, Prometheus13 here. So, something I kind of want to talk about. So, I recently watched a video, and it was between Brago D. Ace and Grandline Review. And essentially, the premise of said video was, does power scaling exist in One Piece? And, it's funny, I actually find myself right in between, because as much as I would agree with one half, with Brago Diaz is saying that power scaling definitely does exist in One Piece, but let's just dive into the meat of it. All right, so we'll start with chapter 157. Ace's debut. The panel shows him as 2nd Division Commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, and that's pretty much right when we get to see this, silhouetted character that's been following Luffy for a couple arcs now, and we obviously are, come to find that he's Luffy's brother, and that brings us into 159, where Ace, pretty much says to Luffy, the rundown like this, that Whitebeard's a great pirate, and he thinks he's going to be, the one to take the One Piece, and ask him if he would join the Whitebeard Pirates. Luffy, that is. He obviously says that his friends can come, and I find this to be something very intriguing, and this is why. Now, we all know that one of the major things that we've been talking about is, we don't have a definitive time frame for, when Ace was in Wano, and, if Ace went to Wano, why didn't he tell any of the other Whitebeard pirates of the circumstances that were there in the surrounding, scenario, when essentially that one of the other division commanders was Oden, the shogun of Wano, originally. I mean, now, the obvious main things that you could put out there is that maybe Ace didn't know the connection between Oden and Whitebeard, which is unlikely, because that's, pretty relative news, I think, of the time, and, Ace wasn't a stupid person by any means. He was quite intelligent, but let's just get into the meat of this. So, we have, in the Wano arc, when Luffy first is introduced to Tama and his master Hitetsu, okay, Hitetsu says that Ace visited Wano about 4 years ago. Alright? So 4 years. That's the key indication there, okay? Now let's go back to chapter 157. Now in the Ace's debut, in those next chapters, between 157 and 159, Luffy tells you that 3 years before Luffy set sail, and 3 years before Alabasta, the exact spot that they're in, before he actually even takes on Crocodile, that Ace left to go sail the Grand Line before him. Now, here's where it gets into really murky interpretation, alright? Now, me, myself, I'm going that 5 years ago, Ace left from the moment that we are at in Wano, where Hitetsu is telling Luffy that Ace visited Wano. I say 5 years specifically due to what Hitetsu says. Essentially, it's that, from the before the 2-year time skip, 3 years previous to that, Ace left, alright? We know that he was the captain of the Spade Pirates, and that they made a few feats before, coming up to the opposition of the Whitebeard Pirates, and, we know that Ace ended up joining that crew as a commander. Now, my own personal opinion, that the Spade Pirates were absorbed by the Whitebeard Pirates, meaning that when we see these Whitebeard Pirate remnants, we should see some Spade Pirates, and that should give us some nice resolution with Tama. But the main point that I'm trying to make here is that there's a good possibility that with 5 years, and again, you can fact check these numbers for yourself, you would be able to say that it was anywhere from 5 to 6 years ago, but I would say most likely it's 5, because 4 years before we're in Wano at that point in time, Ace is finding himself in Wano, in being immersed in what Kaido has done to this culture. You know what I mean? And I think that was before, like right before. I think that most likely Ace left Wano All right, and only to go through maybe one or two more crucibles before finding himself pit against Jinbei and, you know, taking on a position in the Whitebeard Pirates, which would give him 2 years' time. 2 years' time to be where we're at in the storyline, which, as far as we can see in the Alabasta arc, there are no Spade Pirates, you know, accompanying Ace. And in the flashback that we get to see in Wano, the Spade Pirates are clearly behind Ace. You know, we can... They don't show his back specifically, so it would be like Oda to do something like to make it so that, you know, that it actually was a point in time when he was part of the Whitebeard Pirates, and it just so happened that he was sailing with the Spade Pirates at the time, you know, as that division of the Whitebeard Pirates. But either way, I mean, time will tell. But, you know, now why does this matter towards the power scaling argument? This is exactly why. Because even if, alright, now the big question is, why didn't Ace say something about Oden? Because power scaling totally is a thing in One Piece, even by the characters themselves. Even if Ace would have told Whitebeard, like, hey, you know, like, I've heard that Kaido has moved in, and that, you know, there's all these factories that are polluting everything, and that, you know, this friend of mine, Tama, can't get enough to eat, and, you know, her village is pretty much about to be wiped out. They have 4 samurai that are protecting them, okay? Which we also do find out in that chapter that we don't 100% no, but we can say 83% of the way certain that, you know, he never left the Amigasa village, that he stayed there the entire time before he you know, was ready to leave. We don't know that they ventured out further into the country for him to find out that Oden was dead. But if he thought Oden was still alive at that moment, if he didn't know, if they didn't tell him, you know, Oden died, and Ace, for some reason, didn't get that exact message to Whitebeard that Oden was dead. If he told him of this current situation of Wano, it's of my own personal belief that even if Whitebeard would have wanted to go check, he would have known the caliber of man that Oden was. And honestly, to me, even though in a 1v1 fight, whoever they are say, you bite on Kaido, I think that exact moniker doesn't fit when you're fighting a man of Oden's caliber. And I mean, that shows it right in the flashback. I mean, regardless of circumstances, I mean, this is the nuances that, you know, were being described in this, you know, conversation between BDA Law and Grandline Review. Not conversation, but, you know, this back and forth was essentially just like, how do you give one person a feat for certain nuances and another person a feat? Now, they got into, you know, Luffy and Blackbeard being considered Yonko, which I'm of my own personal belief, which I'll be dropping a video about Luffy relatively soon. I've actually not been feeling too great, so I didn't make any videos in the past couple weeks, but essentially I'm here to say that, like, this exactly, like, will be the answer, like the power scaling system, that the kind of person that Oden is without a cheap underhanded trick, which I think that Whitebeard would think of Oden as a being that doesn't matter if you use a cheap underhanded trick. He's taken the W. And I mean, that power scaling obviously it's a flawed system regardless. They're both correct. It's a flawed system. You know, there might as well be no system, which is why I say that they're both correct. But I think that is our answer to why, you know, Whitebeard never showed up in Wano, is because he never knew that Oden died. Ace never was able to confer to him that the original Shogun had died. So he thought Oden was just fighting his own fight. And his pride as a warrior and the fact that he knew just how strong Oden was led it so that he would not go back to Wano before his untimely death in Marineford. Well, I say untimely because I would have liked to see a little bit more of Whitebeard's character before he passed away. I mean, we got phenomenal stuff, but I definitely would have. I mean, I definitely just think that it was worth, you know, pretty much speculating this, that most likely 1 year into that, 3 years before Alabasta, is when Ace found himself in Wano, and that he probably just came out of Wano, you know, like I said, an excursion or two, maybe in between him meeting Jinbei and the Whitebeard Pirates and, you know, getting into this fight, and then him taking a commander spot. Now, I think that we'll find remnants of the Spades Pirates. I don't think all the Spade Pirates probably joined. I think that we may find a more intriguing story if that is the case, but I definitely think that we're going to find out some of these things here, and I also hope that this, puts an end to the debate of the time frame, at least. I mean, I think that's a solid number. I mean, just like with what I said, if you go to 157 and then read on to 159, you'll see that 3 years before that arc, Ace set sail, and that, we're talking 4 years ago from the 2-year time skip, which I said was roughly, 2 years directly after that 3-year mark. I don't think that a whole year passed between, what happens in Alabasta and Marineford. So I said 5 years exactly. So 5 years ago, Ace left, meaning that if 4 years before where he's in Wano being talked to, that would put him into 1 year of piracy. And I think that's a solid number to give. And I will be making a video here shortly on Luffy, and again that just I would say monsterness that is the living legend of Oden. I definitely think that, and I think that in a 1v1 fight, completely fair, Kaido takes an L, straight up. Now I know I'm gonna have people freaking out saying that, but I mean it is just what it is. This is Wano. This is the land of people who slay monsters. Like, being a monster does not guarantee you safety and passage just because you have unparalleled power. Like, this is definitely the arc where we're gonna see some underdog stuff. And I mean, like, that is the main point of, like, the whole power scaling argument. Is like, you're forgetting this is a story about pirates. Pirates don't fight fair. So wit, ingenuity, all of these things that that actually do in balance your Dragon Ball Z setup power scale is always going to be flawed, because that's not how pirates work. That's not how the battles work. And Oden understands this beautifully. Or Oden, might as well call him Oden. He has just as many legendary feats. No, what am I talking about? Oda has more. Oda definitely has an understanding of the kind of fighting pirates have, and I mean he shows it straight off the bat. Chapter 1. We see that flashback, and what's the first thing that happens? Like, no one actually drew fully on Shanks. They just, were, coming up on him with the gun. Now, dude got no warning. His head got blown off. And then, the bandits wanted to cry, and what does Shanks say? We're pirates. That's not how we fight. So, I mean, like, all of the things that would typically be able to arrange your Dragon Ball Z setup of power scaling, it's like we see it happen to Goku constantly in Dragon Ball Z. I definitely agree with, like, the whole World Buster, Planet Buster, Island Buster scenario for actually giving you feats, but I mean, I even wrote a comment about it. I just, like, when it comes down to that, it's just, like, the whole nuance, again, with, like, how pirates think. Make it so a lot of very simplistic devil fruits that wouldn't typically be that dangerous be like world threatening level, at least human race threatening level. With that, why don't you give me your thoughts, drop some comments, hit some subscribes, and I hope everybody is staying safe. I hope everybody's feeling healthy. Everyone have a fantastic day.